Oh my goodness. All I have to say is Diddy has lost his mind. Now, I thought when he was in jail, he was not doing any more sugar boogers. I think someone is slipping him some pills or something because in this video, it states that Diddy is throwing a chair. Diddy, you're throwing a chair. This could make or break you, and he's already acting up. But I have to admit, I don't know if what they're saying in this video is all true or not. But I saw this video. I know you guys love reaction videos, so I had to let you guys hear it for yourselves. I don't know if this is true, but I want you guys to comment. I want to know your thoughts about this video. But first, you got to do me a big favor. I need you guys to make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe here at the Messy Sweet Spot. So let's hear what they have to say. Are you guys ready?
Homie then says, how many times, if any, were you told to urinate on Miss Ventura?
Those are just some of the graphic details to emerge from the Diddy trial, but it doesn't stop there. Rumor has it, things got so heated in court that Diddy snapped and threw a chair at a journalist. In this video, we're breaking down everything that's gone down inside the courtroom so far. Every outburst, every allegation, and what it all means for the case. The shocking courtroom confrontation. Now, before we get into this crazy scene that had everybody's jaws on the floor, let me set the stage for those who might not be fully caught up with what's been happening with the bad boy mogul. Diddy is currently facing some serious heat in a federal courtroom in Manhattan, battling charges that could potentially put him away for life. We're talking racketeering conspiracy, trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution, heavy allegations that have turned the music industry upside down since his arrest back in September 2024. The trial officially kicked off on May 5th, 2025, starting with jury selection, and things moved quickly to opening statements and witness testimonies beginning on May 12, 2025. The whole situation has been a media circus from the jump, with journalists, supporters, and critics all scrambling to get inside that courtroom to witness this landmark case firsthand. Now let's get into what went down today that has social media on fire. According to multiple eyewitness accounts, Diddy completely lost his cool during today's proceeding. As a journalist was entering the courtroom with what appeared to be materials related to the case, Diddy allegedly grabbed a chair and hurled it in the reporter's direction. Security immediately rushed to restrain the hip-hop mogul while the judge called for order in the court. One courtroom observer described the scene as complete bedlam, with people ducking, screaming, and trying to get out of the way of the flying furniture. The journalist, whose identity hasn't been officially released yet, was reportedly struck but not seriously injured. Still, this kind of behavior in a federal courtroom, that's a whole different level of wild, especially for someone already facing such serious charges. Now, I need to keep it real with y'all. This incident didn't happen in isolation. There's been building tension between Diddy's legal team and the media covering this case since day one. His lawyers have previously accused journalists of assassinating his character and creating what they called a hysterical media circus that could potentially damage his right to a fair trial. They've even gone as far as requesting gag orders on the attorneys representing alleged victims to limit media influence. But throwing a chair, that's taking things to a whole different stratosphere of problems. Legal experts are already weighing in, saying this could severely impact how the jury perceives him, regardless of whether they directly witnessed the incident or not. The judge could potentially hit him with contempt of court charges, which would only add to his mounting legal troubles. Let me break down why this is such a big deal in the context of his ongoing trial. Diddy is currently facing charges that include racketeering conspiracy, trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. If convicted, he could face life imprisonment with specific penalties, including a 15-year minimum for trafficking and a 10-year maximum for transportation for prostitution. These are already serious charges, and now adding courtroom misconduct to the mix. Not a good look, fam. The prosecution is building their case around allegations that Diddy used his fame and business empire to coerce and abuse women over 2 decades, organizing drug-fueled parties known as freak-offs. This narrative is something his defense team has been fighting hard to counter, arguing instead that any relationships were consensual and part of a swinger lifestyle rather than criminal coercion.
Phillips said this went on more times meeting up at hotels or their homes, and Diddy would direct them while having sex. Now, a supporter of the alleged victims, Jaguar Wright, spoke out before court this morning.
A key piece of evidence in the trial has been a 2016 video showing Combs assaulting his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, in a hotel hallway, which has been pivotal in the case. This video was released publicly in May 2024, showing Diddy attacking Cassie in a hotel corridor. The footage sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry and led to Diddy issuing an apology on social media, taking full responsibility for his actions while saying he was disgusted by his behavior. One of the most compelling testimonies so far came from Israel Flores, a former Los Angeles police officer, who described responding to a distress call in 2016 and witnessing Combs assaulting Ventura, alleging Combs tried to bribe him to stay silent. This officer's testimony has been particularly damaging to Diddy's defense, as it corroborates the video evidence and adds the element of attempted bribery to cover up the incident. Another key witness has been Daniel Phillip, a male review manager, who testified about being paid to engage in sexual activities with Ventura under Combs' direction, describing violent episodes where Combs dragged and slapped her.
Phillips, the second witness of the day, said he was told by his boss that he was going to perform at a bachelorette party at the Gramercy Park Hotel, but when he arrived, he saw Cassie in red lingerie and a red wig. He testified she said that they would rub baby oil on each other and would see where things would go from there while her husband was there.
Now, with this chair-throwing incident, the question on everyone's mind is how this will affect the trial moving forward. Will the judge declare a mistrial? Will there be additional charges? How will this impact the jury's perception, even if they weren't present for the outburst? One courtroom source claimed that Diddy had been showing increasing signs of agitation throughout the proceedings, particularly when certain evidence was presented or when specific witnesses took the stand. This chair-throwing incident appears to be the culmination of that building pressure finally boiling over in a moment of unchecked rage. The legal ramifications could be significant. For one, this kind of behavior could potentially result in the revocation of certain courtroom privileges. It could also influence the judge's decisions on various motions and objections raised by the defense. Most importantly, if word of this incident reaches the jury, and let's be real, in a case this high profile, it's hard to keep anything contained. It could significantly damage Diddy's credibility in their eyes. His legal team has been fighting an uphill battle from the start. Beyond the criminal trial, Combs faces over 100 civil lawsuits from individuals accusing him of misconduct, with allegations dating back to 1991. A notable lawsuit was filed by Cassie Ventura in 2023, settled quickly, but sparking further investigations. The sheer volume of accusations has made this case particularly challenging from a defense perspective. What's particularly interesting about today's incident is the timing. It comes just as Cassie Ventura, Diddy's former girlfriend and a central figure in the case, was expected to testify, potentially revealing new details about the allegations. Her testimony has been highly anticipated, as she is considered the prosecution's star witness.
The testimony resumes tomorrow with Daniel Phillips, and after that, Cassie Ventura is expected to take the stand. She is the prosecution's star witness.
Sources close to the case have indicated that Cassie is currently pregnant, adding another layer of complexity to her upcoming testimony, as this could potentially make her appear more sympathetic to the jury. This has created a delicate situation for Diddy's defense team, who need to challenge her credibility without appearing overly aggressive toward a pregnant woman. The defense has been trying to paint a picture of a toxic relationship with mutual combativeness, acknowledging physical violence but denying sexual assault or coercion. However, this chair-throwing incident directly contradicts that narrative, instead reinforcing the prosecution's portrayal of Diddy as someone with violent tendencies who lashes out when he doesn't get his way. Before we wrap up this first segment, let's talk about the jury in this case, because they're going to be essential in determining Diddy's fate. During jury selection, his lawyers raised concerns about the exclusion of black jurors, specifically noting that 7 out of 9 peremptory challenges were used to strike black potential jurors, which they argued showed a pattern of racial bias. This motion was ultimately denied by the judge, who found no evidence of purposeful discrimination. The prosecution countered these claims by stating that their selections were diverse, with many non-white jurors, and provided neutral reasons for each strike, such as lack of candor with past police incidents, inconsistent answers, and familiarity with Combs' life and career. This jury, now seated and hearing evidence, will ultimately decide Diddy's fate, a responsibility that has become even more complicated with today's dramatic courtroom incident. Witness testimonies and courtroom drama unfolds. Let's start with one of the most damning pieces of evidence in this case, that hotel surveillance video from 2016. This footage, which was released by CNN in May 2024, shows Diddy physically assaulting Cassie Ventura in a hotel hallway. The impact of this video cannot be overstated. It shocked the public and substantially damaged Diddy's reputation before the trial even began.
Los Angeles hotel back in 2016 when Diddy was caught on video assaulting Cassie, and he testified that Diddy threw a sack of money at him in their hotel room afterwards to keep quiet.
When this video was shown in court, the reaction was palpable. Family members visibly reacted, and the jury appeared transfixed by the disturbing footage. This video has become a cornerstone of the prosecution's case, not just because it shows actual physical violence, but because it helps establish a pattern of behavior that aligns with the broader allegations of coercion and control. Interestingly, Diddy's legal team has attempted to challenge the authenticity of this video. In March 2025, they claimed CNN altered the video, alleging changes like covering the timestamp and speeding it up. CNN denied these claims, stating no alterations were made. This dispute over the video's authenticity could impact its admissibility in the trial, though so far, the judge has allowed it to be presented to the jury. Let's talk about the testimony that had everybody talking. Daniel Phillip, a male review manager who testified about being paid to engage in sexual activities with Ventura under Combs' direction, describing violent episodes where Combs dragged and slapped her. Phillips's testimony has been particularly damaging because it directly addresses the trafficking and prostitution charges.
Combs was allegedly in a corner in a white robe concealing his face with a bandana, but Phillips said he recognized Diddy's voice.
According to Phillips, he was paid to have with Ventura, with Combs present, directing actions like rub more baby oil on each other, and witnessing Combs drag Ventura by her hair, slap her, and Ventura appearing drugged, taking Molly from Combs, sometimes not paid. This testimony directly supports the prosecution's narrative of coercion and exploitation, particularly the allegation that Diddy used his power to control and manipulate those around him.
Phillips said this went on more times meeting up at hotels or their homes, and Diddy would direct them while having sex.
Another crucial witness has been Israel Flores, a former Los Angeles police officer who described responding to a distress call in 2016 and witnessing Combs assaulting Ventura, alleging Combs tried to bribe him to stay silent. Flores testified that when he arrived at the scene, he found Combs in a towel with what he described as a devilish stare, and Ventura with a visible injury to her eye.
Yeah, he said he had a devilish smile. That's what he said of Combs there after that incident back in 2016.
Perhaps most damning was Flores's claim that Combs offered a stack of cash, top bill $100, as a bribe, though no charges were pressed. This allegation of attempted bribery adds another layer to the prosecution's portrayal of Diddy as someone who believed his wealth and influence could shield him from consequences. The defense has tried to challenge the credibility of these witnesses through cross-examination. During cross-examination of Flores, they focused on elements that were omitted from his official report, such as the devilish smile and the presence of another individual in the hotel room. By highlighting these inconsistencies, the defense is attempting to cast doubt on the reliability of the witnesses and their recollection. Let's talk about Diddy's demeanor in court throughout all this, even before the chair throwing incident. According to courtroom observers, he appeared solemn and anxious during the proceedings, greeting his family with hugs before sitting alongside his legal team. His family's presence has been a consistent feature of the trial, with his sons Justin and Christian being particularly supportive.
That court hearing was pretty quick. It was about 30 minutes long. I think all of us were kind of surprised that the hearing did last that short amount of time as opposed to last hearing, which was about 2 hours or so.
Interestingly, a courtroom reporter noted that Diddy appeared with gray hair, which marked a noticeable change from previous public images. This, combined with reports that he has lost significant weight while in detention, suggests the toll the case is taking on him physically. One observer noted that he appeared very thin compared to his usual robust appearance, likely a result of his time in detention.
But his mom also wasn't in court today. So when Diddy came inside, it was still that standard issued MDC jumpsuit. He's wearing khaki. From that video of, I think that was obtained by Daily Mail back in September, of Diddy playing hacky sack in Central Park, to now he appeared just astonishingly thinner, which you can expect to be inside a federal detention center for a couple months now. A lot different from the luxury lifestyle that he was living before, but he appeared very noticeably thinner, and maybe being locked up in detention is starting to wear on him.
Despite these physical changes, Diddy has been actively engaged in his defense, frequently conferring with his legal team during proceedings. This makes today's outburst all the more surprising. It represents a significant departure from his generally controlled courtroom demeanor up to this point. The atmosphere in the courtroom has been described as tense throughout the trial. The courtroom was described as chaotic at times, with 3 overflow rooms dedicated to media, celebrities, and Combs family members. The high-profile nature of the case has attracted significant attention, with long lines forming outside the courthouse each day.
I want to talk about the circus that is outside as well in New York City, familiar with major high-profile cases as well. Can you set the scene a little bit and describe some of the environment outside of this courthouse?
In fact, the interest in this case has been so intense that people have been lining up overnight with lawn chairs, hoping to secure a spot in the courtroom the next day. This level of public interest adds another layer of pressure to an already high-stakes trial.
Tomorrow. So I would say there are about maybe 36 people. They have lawn chairs sitting out ready to get in and stay here overnight.
One aspect of the trial that has drawn particular attention is the so-called freak-offs, the term used to describe the alleged parties organized by Diddy. Prosecutors described these as drug-fueled encounters where women were coerced into participating, often under the influence of substances like Molly, MDMA. The prosecution has argued that these events weren't consensual gatherings, but rather orchestrated scenarios where women were manipulated and exploited.
He was paid a few $1,000s when he left. Phillips said this went on more times meeting up at hotels or their homes, and Diddy would direct them while having sex.
The defense has countered by characterizing these same gatherings as part of a swinger lifestyle that, while perhaps unconventional, was entirely consensual. This contrasted narrative represents the central dispute in the case. Was Diddy a manipulative abuser who coerced women, or was he simply a participant in consensual, if unusual, sexual activities? Let me keep it real with y'all. The prosecution's evidence has been pretty convincing so far. Beyond the witness testimonies and the surveillance video, they've presented evidence from raids on Diddy's homes in Miami and Los Angeles conducted in March 2024. During these raids, authorities seized guns, ammunition, drugs, and over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant, allegedly intended for use in these activities. The sheer quantity of these items has been presented as evidence supporting the organized nature of the alleged freak-offs. The baby oil, in particular, has become a recurring theme in the trial, mentioned repeatedly by witnesses and referenced by both the prosecution and defense. It's even trending on social media as a result of the trial coverage.
Everyone's talking about the baby oil, and it came up during Garagos' opening statement. She said there's nothing illegal about, having a lot of baby oil.
As legal expert Nima Rahmani pointed out when discussing the significance of the baby oil evidence.
The baby oil is important to the allegations in the case because you saw Philip come and testify that Combs wanted Cassie covered in baby oil when he was filming them having sex, and he would assault her and Philip would become uncomfortable, grab her by the hair. So we're really seeing what the government is saying with respect to the force element.
Another key aspect of the case involves allegations of drugging. The prosecution has argued that victims were often drugged during these freak-offs, sometimes to the point of vomiting, which they contend demonstrates the non-consensual nature of these encounters, arguing that no one would consent to being drugged to such an extent. This forms a crucial part of their argument regarding the force, fraud, or coercion element required for the trafficking charges. It's worth noting that the defense has challenged these narratives at every turn. They've portrayed Diddy as a flawed individual who, while perhaps engaging in behavior that might be considered unconventional, did not commit the crimes he's accused of. They've acknowledged instances of violence, but argued that the relationships were consensual, describing them as part of a swinger's lifestyle rather than criminal activity. Let's talk about the legal team that's representing Diddy in this high-stakes case. His defense is led by Mark Agnifilo, a high-profile attorney who has previously represented controversial clients like NXIVM leader Keith Raniere. The defense team also includes Tenny Geragos, Mark Geragos' daughter, who delivered the opening statement for the defense. Interestingly, the judge admonished one of Diddy's lawyers, Tenny Geragos, for making racial remarks about the prosecutors on a podcast, referring to them as a six-pack of white women. This exchange highlights the tensions that have surrounded this case from the beginning, with race being a recurring theme in various aspects of the proceedings. The defense has attempted to inject racial considerations into the case in other ways as well. They filed motions challenging charges under the Mann Act related to transportation for prostitution, claiming racial bias in prosecution. They've also raised concerns about the exclusion of black jurors during jury selection, specifically noting that 7 out of 9 peremptory challenges were used to strike black potential jurors, which they argued showed a pattern of racial bias. These racial dynamics add another layer of complexity to an already complicated case, particularly given the historical context of how black celebrities have been treated by the justice system. Some observers have drawn parallels to other high-profile cases involving black celebrities, suggesting that there might be a broader pattern of targeting successful black figures. Dr. Umar Johnson, a controversial commentator, expressed this sentiment when he stated,
Shannon Sharp, you ain't got no business sleeping with 19-year-old snow bunnies. Dion and Shador, you ain't got no business being confident and independent. Sean Puffy Combs, you ain't got no business being a multi-billionaire mogul suing a multi-billionaire liquor company. Bill Cosby, you ain't have no business trying to purchase a major broadcasting station. Carmelo Anthony, you have no business defending yourself against white people. We can do whatever we want to do with your people.
However, it's important to note that the prosecution, led by Maureen Ryan Comey, daughter of former FBI Director James Comey, has consistently rejected these claims of racial targeting. Judge Arun Subramanian denied the defense's motion regarding juror strikes, ruling that they failed to show purposeful discrimination. This ruling was consistent with his earlier rejection of broader racial bias claims on May 9, 2025. legal implications, and industry fallout. First things first, let's talk about the immediate legal consequences Diddy could face for throwing a chair at a journalist in federal court. This type of behavior typically results in contempt of court charges, which can bring additional penalties, including fines and even extra jail time. The judge has several options for how to handle this situation, ranging from a formal reprimand to more serious sanctions. Legal experts are already weighing in on how this could impact the case. Former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani, who has been following the trial closely, explained that this kind of behavior can severely damage a defendant's standing with both the judge and jury.
Very difficult, Andy. And, the defense is arguing consent and the prosecution is arguing trafficking. So what does trafficking require? Force, fraud, or coercion. So they're really leaning into that force. And their argument is this: no woman would consent to being drugged. No woman would consent to being urinated on. So much so that some of them even threw up during these freak-offs.
What makes this particularly problematic for Diddy is that it plays directly into the prosecution's characterization of him as someone with violent tendencies who uses force and intimidation to get his way. The prosecution has been building a case around force, fraud, or coercion as required elements for trafficking charges. And this outburst could be seen as a real-time demonstration of the kind of behavior they've been describing. The incident could also impact how the judge rules on various motions and objections throughout the remainder of the trial. Judges are human, and while they strive for impartiality, a defendant who has demonstrated disrespect for court proceedings may find less sympathy when it comes to borderline legal decisions. One immediate question is whether this could result in a mistrial. While dramatic courtroom outbursts sometimes lead to this outcome, legal experts suggest it's unlikely in this case. The trial is expected to last 8 weeks, and considerable resources have already been invested in jury selection and initial testimony. More likely, the judge will issue a strong admonishment, potentially add contempt charges, and instruct the jury to disregard the incident if they became aware of it. Speaking of the jury, they're the ones who will ultimately decide Diddy's fate, and this incident could significantly impact their perception of it, even if they weren't present for the outburst, as it may have occurred during a break or when they were not in the courtroom. News of such a dramatic event has a way of spreading, despite instructions to avoid media coverage of the case. The defense team is likely scrambling to mitigate the damage. They could potentially argue that the pressure of the trial and the serious allegations have taken a psychological toll on their client, perhaps even suggesting that this outburst is evidence of his need for mental health support rather than an indication of violent tendencies. However, this would be a delicate argument to make, as it could inadvertently reinforce the prosecution's portrayal of him as unstable. Let's shift gears and talk about how this trial, even before today's incident, has been sending shockwaves through the music industry. The allegations against Diddy have sparked important conversations about domestic violence, sexual assault, and the accountability of public figures, particularly in the entertainment industry where power dynamics can be especially problematic. The impact has been particularly significant in hip-hop, where Diddy has been a towering figure for decades. His influence extended far beyond music into fashion, alcohol brands, and media, making him one of the most successful entrepreneurs to emerge from hip-hop culture. Now, many artists who were once closely associated with him are distancing themselves, and his business empire is facing significant challenges. Some industry figures have defended Diddy, suggesting that he's being unfairly targeted. Dr. Umar Johnson, for example, has questioned the legal proceedings against him.
And I don't condone abuse. I don't condone assault. I don't condone trafficking, none of that. But at the same time, I stand for justice. In letting a woman who's already been paid off and signed the NDA to come into court and testify against me like y'all allowed in the Bill Cosby trial, absolutely unacceptable, absolutely wrong.
Others have expressed concerns about allowing Cassie to testify, despite having previously settled a lawsuit with Diddy.
First of all, it should be absolutely illegal for Cassie to testify against Diddy. When he paid her off, I believe there was an NDA involved in that situation. He was paying her off to shut up and go away.
However, these defenders are increasingly in the minority as more damning evidence comes to light. The impact of this case extends far beyond Diddy himself. It's forcing a reckoning within the entertainment industry as a whole, particularly regarding how powerful men treat women and other vulnerable individuals. The case has also highlighted the challenges faced by victims of abuse when their abusers are powerful and well-connected. Cassie Ventura's decision to come forward with her allegations, despite having signed an NDA as part of her settlement, has been seen by many as a courageous act that has has paved the way for others to share their experiences. Her advocacy has emphasized the importance of believing victims and providing support systems for those who have experienced abuse.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And it's fascinating, some of those details inside. We're going to glean more of that in just a little bit. But I want to talk about the circus that is outside as well in New York City, familiar with major high-profile cases as well.
The media coverage of this case has been intense, with reporters lining up overnight to secure spots in the courtroom. This high level of public interest reflects the significance of the case, not just as a celebrity scandal, but as a potential watershed moment for accountability in the entertainment industry. Speaking of media coverage, it's worth noting that Diddy's legal team has been critical of how the case has been portrayed in the press. They've accused journalists of creating a hysterical media circus that could prejudice Diddy's right to a fair trial. They've specifically criticized coverage from outlets like The Daily Beast, NBC, CBS, and ABC, arguing that such reporting could harm his case by influencing potential jurors. This tension between Diddy's team and the media provides important context for today's chair-throwing incident. While it doesn't excuse or justify such behavior, it helps explain the building frustration that may have led to this explosive moment. The defense has portrayed the media as being unfairly biased against their client, creating a narrative that has already convicted him in the court of public opinion before the trial even began. Another significant aspect of this case is the use of the Racketeering Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, which was originally designed to target organized crime. The prosecution is arguing that Diddy used his business empire, particularly Bad Boy Entertainment, as a criminal enterprise, enabling the alleged trafficking and other criminal activities. This approach has drawn comparisons to other high-profile RICO cases against figures in the entertainment industry. The use of RICO charges is particularly significant because it allows prosecutors to present evidence of a pattern of behavior over an extended period, rather than focusing on isolated incidents. This broader perspective has enabled them to construct a narrative that spans decades, incorporating the testimonies of multiple victims to establish a consistent pattern of alleged misconduct. There's also an important financial dimension to this case. If Diddy is convicted of racketeering charges, the government could potentially seize assets associated with what they've characterized as a criminal enterprise. This could include significant portions of his business holdings, potentially devastating the empire he's built over decades. This financial aspect may help explain why Diddy rejected a plea deal offered by prosecutors. While the specific terms of the deal haven't been made public, legal experts have suggested that accepting a plea on racketeering charges would have required him to admit that Bad Boy was a criminal enterprise, potentially exposing his assets to forfeiture, as Dr. Umar Johnson speculated.
I'm still leaning towards no. The other issue too here, Art, is you got to realize if he takes a plea, you cannot revoke that plea later. In addition to that, if he takes the plea on the racketeering, Art, that means he's admitting that Bad Boy Incorporated was a criminal enterprise, which means the government is able to lay siege to everything he owned in the name of Bad Boy. The money, the buildings, the real estate, the catalogs.
Beyond the immediate legal consequences, the chair-throwing incident is likely to have significant implications for Diddy's public image and legacy. Even before this outburst, his reputation had been severely damaged by the allegations and the video evidence of his assault on Cassie. This latest incident reinforces the negative perceptions that have been forming, potentially cementing his public image as someone with violent tendencies who cannot control his impulses. For the hip-hop community, this case represents a painful chapter. Diddy has been a central figure in the evolution of hip-hop into a global cultural force, helping to bring the genre into mainstream consciousness and demonstrating its commercial potential. His fall from grace forces a reckoning with how the community deals with allegations of abuse and exploitation within its ranks. That brings us to the end of this video. For more interesting videos like this, click on the cards on your screen. Diddy's world is falling apart, and it's all playing out in real time. First, a judge shut down his $50 million bail offer, keeping him locked up until trial. But now, things have taken a wild turn with new rumors suggesting that Diddy's threatening the judge. Stay locked in because we're about to break it all down. Diddy's bail denied. Man, things just keep spiraling for Diddy, and it's looking worse by the day. His bail hasn't just been denied once, it's been shut down twice. And now there's talk that he might have even threatened the judge. Whether that's true or not, nobody knows for sure, but with everything going down, nothing seems off the table. You'd think with $50 million on the table, he'd walk out of that courtroom, no problem. But even that kind of cash can't change the fact that he's facing some serious charges. The whole bail drama kicked off on Tuesday, the 17th, when Diddy rolled into court after his arrest. He stood before U.S. Magistrate Judge Robin Tarnowski, pleading not guilty to some heavy charges: racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation for prostitution. Diddy's legal team tried to pull all the stops, requesting home home detention with GPS monitoring on a $50 million bond. This bond was secured by his $48 million Miami mansion and his mom's house nearby. And to show he wasn't playing, Diddy, his mom, and even his daughters all handed over their passports to his legal counsel. His lawyers made it clear, Sean Combs has never evaded, avoided, eluded, or run from a challenge in his life. And to back it up, Mark Agnifilo, Diddy's lawyer, told the press that Diddy willingly flew to New York to face the charges head on.
Mr. Combs came to New York on September 5th. As soon as we realized that this indictment was going to be coming down in a matter of weeks, maybe months, but sometime soon, Mr. Combs got on a plane, left his home in Florida, flew to New York.
But no matter how much Diddy and his squad put on the table, Judge Tarnofsky wasn't having it. She shut it down, saying Diddy was too much of a flight risk and, on top of that, might mess with witnesses. The court wasn't about to take any chances with charges this serious. And to back that up, prosecutors came with the receipts. They claimed that in the months leading up to his arrest, Diddy had been reaching out to victims and witnesses, trying to get them on his side and push his version of the story. That move alone raised some serious red flags. Still, Diddy's team wasn't about to let it slide. They bounced back with an appeal, but this time they were in front of a different judge, U.S. District Judge Andrew L. Carter. They sweetened the deal. Diddy agreed to weekly drug tests, to restrict visitors to just family and caretakers, and to keep a log of every person stepping foot into his Miami mansion. On top of that, no female visitors allowed, except for family. It was a bold move, showing just how desperate Diddy was to get out, but it wasn't enough. Judge Carter wasn't sold. Even with all these conditions, the court still ruled that Diddy was too dangerous to release. His history of violence and his anger issues were a big part of why the judge couldn't take the risk. With his appeal getting shut down, Diddy was sent straight to the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, in Brooklyn, a place that's known for being straight up hell on earth. And that's not an exaggeration. This facility has been described as an ongoing tragedy, a place that's infamous for its brutal conditions. The MDC is no joke. It's like the worst of the worst. Inmates have been complaining for years about how wild things are in there. We're talking out of control violence and conditions that are straight up inhumane. The place is seriously understaffed, and that just makes everything even messier. On top of that, there's contraband everywhere. Drugs, phones, you name it. And sometimes it's the employees helping to sneak stuff in. And if that's not bad enough, the lockdowns are constant. Prisoners can go days locked in their cells. No calls, no visits, no showers, no fresh air. For Diddy, used to living in mansions and private jets, this is a whole different kind of reality, a far cry from the life he's used to. But how did we even get here? Let's rewind to September 16th, the day Diddy got taken in. What's wild is that Diddy knew the charges were hanging over his head, but he clearly didn't expect the feds to come for him that day. Just hours before his arrest, Diddy was out in Central Park, acting like it was just another regular day. Fast forward a few hours, and Diddy was seen again, this time with his son, Christian Combs, still moving like he had no care in the world, completely relaxed, as if he was untouchable. Just 30 minutes before the arrest, Diddy was still chilling with a group of friends, probably cracking jokes, completely unaware that the feds were closing in on him. What started off as a sunny day full of smiles ended with Diddy in handcuffs facing one of the most serious indictments of his career. And trust me, the details of that indictment is straight up wild.
The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct.
The indictment against Sean Diddy Combs paints a dark picture of a world built on manipulation and abuse, with the notorious freak-offs at the center of it all. These weren't just parties. Diddy allegedly set them up, directed them, and even recorded the whole thing. According to the indictment, Diddy and his crew used fear tactics and manipulation to lure women into his circle. It would often start off with a romantic vibe, but once they were in, it became something far more twisted. These women were coerced into participating in these freak-offs, where multiple sex workers were involved. It didn't end there. Diddy allegedly went all out for these events, flying in sex workers from across the globe to make sure his parties were next level. Everything had to be perfect. His team would meticulously set up the venues, making sure the most expensive bottles were lined up, and even details like fresh linens were handled with precision. Every single aspect was planned down to the finest detail, ensuring these nights went off without a hitch. Back in March 2024, when federal agents raided Diddy's homes in both Los Angeles and Miami, what they found left everyone stunned. Over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant, along with narcotics. The sheer amount of these supplies painted a shocking picture of the scale of these events. But what really shook people were the stories of violent outbursts during these freak-offs. Authorities claimed that Diddy didn't hesitate to get physical when things didn't go his way. Diddy would kick, punch, and even drag women by their hair during these freak-offs. Women were reportedly left with serious injuries, and some needed days to recover. He used the footage from these nights as a weapon, threatening to ruin their lives if they ever spoke out about what went down. What makes these freak-offs even more disturbing disturbing is how well they were hidden. Back in 2012, a freak-off got so out of control that a Manhattan penthouse was trashed beyond recognition. Diddy had to pay $46,000 just to cover the damage, not just to replace broken furniture, but to erase any evidence of what went down that night. The indictment also digs deeper into the role of Combs Enterprise, Diddy's network of loyal associates who helped run both his global business and his personal life. These associates allegedly did more than just assist. They used violence, threats, and coercion to keep Diddy's power, reputation, and brand intact. That's why Diddy got hit with the RICO, Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act charge. Now, a RICO charge is no small thing. This is usually aimed at taking down organized crime by targeting the leaders behind it all. For Diddy, prosecutors are saying that he committed multiple offenses within a 10-year window that tie back to this broader criminal enterprise. But that's not where it ends. The surprises in Diddy's indictment keep stacking up. During the raid, police also uncovered a stash of firearms at his crib.
As you can see here, this is a drum magazine, large capacity, and it contains, I believe, 59 rounds. I mentioned as well, we recovered 3 AR-15s. This is a close-up shot of one of the AR-15s, and you can see right here, the serial number has been thoroughly defaced.
Following his indictment and the judge denying his bail, Diddy's lawyer came out swinging, talking big, saying Diddy's innocent and he's ready to fight the case with everything he's got.
Mr. Combs is a fighter. He's going to fight this to the end. He's innocent. He came to New York to establish his innocence.
While Diddy's lawyer is pushing hard to prove his innocence, it's hard for a lot of folks to buy it, especially when you hear all the wild details surrounding the allegations against him. The allegations against Diddy. Ever since November 2023, Diddy's been getting hit from all sides with lawsuits, allegations flying in left and right to the point where it's almost hard to keep track. But one of the most damaging lawsuits dropped earlier this year, and it came from none other than his former producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones. And let me tell you, the details in this one are wild. According to the lawsuit, between September 2022 and November 2023, Jones was invited to work on 9 tracks for Diddy's Love album. Lil Rod wasn't just working with Diddy, he was practically living with him. Over the course of those months, he spent time in Diddy's homes in LA, New York, and Miami, and even spent several weeks aboard a yacht Diddy rented in the US Virgin Islands. But what seemed like a promising gig soon turned into a nightmare. While staying with Diddy, Jones claims he was constantly dealing with unwanted touching and groping. It didn't matter where they were, LA, New York, Miami, or even out on that fancy yacht. Diddy was allegedly crossing boundaries, and it gets worse. Jones says Diddy even had him working in the bathroom while he strolled around naked, flexing in the shower like it was no big deal, with the glass enclosure leaving nothing to the imagination. Feeling violated and humiliated, Jones decided to speak up. He took his concern straight to Christina Coram, Diddy's chief of staff, but instead of handling it, Coram just brushed it off. She had the nerve to say, "You know, Sean will be Sean." Like that excused everything. She downplayed the whole situation, calling Diddy's inappropriate touching just friendly horseplay, as if that was supposed to make it okay. In her eyes, it wasn't a big deal. That's just how Diddy rolls. But that wasn't the end of it. Lil Rod also dropped a bombshell, claiming that Diddy tried to groom him into some sexual activities, and it wasn't just with anyone. Diddy allegedly tried to get him involved with fellow producer Stephen Aaron Jordan, better known as Stevie J. Now, for those of y'all who might not know, Stevie J is a big name in the music game. He first blew up back in the 90s as part of Bad Boy Records' production crew, the Hitmen. This man was in the trenches with Diddy, producing some of the biggest hits in hip-hop and R&B. We're talking classics like Mo Money Mo Problems by the notorious Big, I'll Be Missing You by Puff Daddy, and Honey by Mariah Carey. Stevie J's work even earned him a Grammy Award in 1997 for his role in Puff Daddy's No Way Out album. According to Jones, Diddy allegedly promised to pull some strings and make sure Lil Rod would take home Producer of the Year at the Grammys if he went along with Diddy's demands, and it doesn't stop there. Jones claimed that during Thanksgiving in 2022 at Diddy's Miami mansion, things got even darker. Diddy, apparently wasted, offered him some cocaine, which Jones refused before heading to the restroom. But that's when things took a disturbing turn. One of Young Miami's cousins allegedly burst into the bathroom and started groping him. Jones believes Diddy orchestrated the whole thing, sending her in to assault him. She wasn't done, though. After dropping to her knees and trying to perform oral sex on him, Jones managed to push her away and get out of the bathroom. But she wasn't backing down that easy. She followed him out, stripping off her clothes and trying to straddle him, right there in front of Diddy and his staff, like it was nothing. Once again, Jones pushed her off. The lawsuit even includes pictures from that day, showing Young Miami and her cousin, further backing up Jones' claims. The lawsuit also claims that Diddy took things even further by showing Jones footage of people getting it on at his cribs, footage Jones believes was secretly recorded through hidden cameras set up all around Diddy's properties. And it didn't stop there. On multiple occasions, Diddy allegedly grabbed Jones's phone and started recording himself, leaving Jones with hundreds of hours of wild footage and audio. The lawsuit also includes screenshots from the footage, footage, allegedly showing Diddy with underage girls and a sex worker, further backing up the claims against him. But the claims against Diddy didn't start with Jones. The first major bombshell came from Cassie, Diddy's ex-girlfriend, whose lawsuit set off a chain reaction and opened the floodgates for other accusations to come forward. According to Cassie's lawsuit, she first met Diddy back in 2005. She was just 19 years old, full of dreams, ready to chase her career. Soon after, they began dating, but that's when things took a dark turn. She described enduring years of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, which left her feeling trapped and powerless. From the jump, Diddy allegedly took full control of her life. He would constantly give her drugs like ecstasy and cocaine, supposedly using them to keep her under his thumb. Diddy didn't hold back when it came to violence. Cassie claimed he frequently subjected her to savage beatings, leaving her with bruises, busted lips, and black eyes. In one incident back in 2009, things got especially dark after she spoke to another music manager. Diddy allegedly snapped, pushing her into a car and stomping on her face. But it wasn't just hidden behind closed doors. In 2016, one of these violent moments was caught on camera, and that footage leaked in 2024, making headlines earlier this year. The leaked video showed Diddy attacking Cassie in a Los Angeles hotel hallway, exposing the abuse she had endured for years. But it wasn't just physical violence. Cassie also opened up about the emotional torture. She talked about being forced into Diddy's twisted freak-offs, where he'd direct sexual acts between her and sex workers, often while filming. These sessions were fueled by heavy drug use and left Cassie humiliated and degraded, all in the name of Diddy's twisted fantasies. Beyond the physical and emotional abuse, Diddy allegedly used manipulation to keep Cassie tied to him. She claimed he would suppress her music and control her career to make sure she stayed in line, keeping her dependent on him for over a decade. Even though Cassie dropped the lawsuit within a day of filing, it was like opening the floodgates. Her case prompted other women to step forward with their own allegations, bringing even more heat to Diddy. One of those women was Joy Dickerson, who dropped a bombshell lawsuit going all the way back to 1991. Joy claims that while she was a student at Syracuse University, Diddy drugged and sexually assaulted her during a dinner. She says he spiked her drink, leaving her barely able to stand, and then took advantage of her, filming the whole thing. But it didn't stop there. Joy claims Diddy later circulated the footage as revenge porn. The trauma from that night was so bad, she says it made her drop out of college entirely. Diddy, of course, is calling the whole thing a lie, saying it's just another fabricated story. Then there's Jane Doe, who filed her own lawsuit in December 2023. She's accusing Diddy and singer Aaron Hall of gang raping her and a friend over 30 years ago. According to her, after a party at Uptown Records, Diddy and Hall forced them into sexual acts, and things took a turn when Diddy allegedly got violent. Jane Doe says he choked her until she passed out to keep her from telling anyone what went down. And just when you thought the allegations couldn't get any messier, another ex, Gina Huynh, has had her past claims resurface. Like I said, these accusations keep stacking up, making it harder to keep track of all the drama surrounding Diddy. Gina and Diddy had an on and off relationship for years, and according to her, it wasn't just rocky, it was straight up abusive. She's been vocal about the violence, describing how Diddy would hit her, hurt her, and even stomped on her stomach during one argument. In past interviews, Gina detailed how the emotional and physical abuse took a toll on her, painting yet another picture of Diddy's dark side.
He stomped on my stomach really hard, and I took the wind out of my breath. I couldn't breathe. Took my hair and was dragging me across the grass in my hair with my hair.
But it wasn't just about the physical damage. Just like Cassie, Gina had to deal with constant emotional and mental abuse. She claimed Diddy would tear her down by comparing her to Cassie, telling her that she was the bad one, while Cassie was the good one.
He would always compare me to Cassie and tell me that I'm the bad one and she's the good one.
And while these stories are shocking, the controversies surrounding Diddy go way beyond his relationships. Other major controversies. Diddy's got a laundry list of controversies beyond the lawsuits. It's actually wild. One of the craziest involves a woman who claims Diddy shot her in the face. This all goes back to the infamous 1999 Club New York shooting, one of the most notorious incidents tied to Diddy's name. The shooting went down in the early hours of December 27, 1999 at Club New York in Manhattan. The place was packed, the energy was high, and then out of nowhere, shots rang out, sending the whole club into chaos. In the middle of it all was Natanya Rubin, who caught a bullet right between the eyes. Miraculously, she survived, but she's had fragments of that bullet lodged in her face ever since. Now, here's where it gets even crazier. While Jamal Shine Barrow took the fall for the shooting and got sentenced to 10 years in prison, Rubin has been saying for years that it wasn't Shine who shot her. She's claiming it was Diddy himself who pulled the trigger.
You have said since really right after the shooting that it was P. Diddy who shot you.
I said it immediately. I literally watched them pull out the guns. I've had a clear point of view.
I mean, for God's sake, I got shot in my nose.
Rubin says she saw Diddy fire the gun, and she's so serious about proving it that she's willing to have the bullet fragment removed from her face as evidence. Diddy was arrested after the shooting, but was acquitted of all charges, which some say was part of a bigger cover-up to protect him and his then-girlfriend Jennifer Lopez, who was also at the club that night. Despite the acquittal, Rubin isn't letting it go. She's been fighting for years to get the case reopened, and in 2008, she hit Diddy with a $130 million lawsuit. The case was eventually settled in 2011, but Rubin is still speaking out, saying Diddy's responsible and she won't stop until the truth comes out. And it doesn't end there. Diddy's name has also come up in connection with another huge controversy, the murder of Tupac Shakur. The beef between Diddy's Bad Boy Records on the East Coast and Death Row Records, led by Suge Knight, was one of the most infamous rivalries in hip-hop. It's believed that this East Coast versus West Coast feud played a big role in Tupac's murder back in 1996. According to court documents filed in 2024, Dwayne Keffy D. Davis, who was arrested in connection with Tupac's killing, claimed that Diddy allegedly paid $1 million to have Tupac murdered. Documents highlight that Diddy was allegedly willing to go to great lengths to protect his empire during the height of the East Coast versus West Coast feud, and this included putting a hit on Tupac and Suge Knight. Davis admitted that Diddy was terrified of Suge Knight and the tension that had built up between the two labels. Diddy has repeatedly denied these accusations in the past, dismissing them as false and nonsense.
So we don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother.
And as if that wasn't enough, there's another wild theory floating around that ties Diddy to the death of Michael Jackson. Why? Because of one name, Fahim Muhammad. If you don't know, Fahim was once Michael Jackson's head of security and later became Diddy's top security guy. Based on the lawsuit from Lil Rod, Fahim was known for being Diddy's cleanup man, the one who made problems and people disappear. Fahim allegedly played a major role in covering up incidents, including the 2022 shooting at Chalice Studios. According to Jones, Diddy held a writer's camp at the studio with his son Justin Combs and his friend G present. Things escalated and multiple shots were fired. When the smoke cleared, G was bleeding from his leg and hip while Diddy and Justin calmly walked out. Jones claims Diddy gave strict orders to tell the cops he had nothing to with it, covering up what really went down. And Fahim, he was right there cleaning it all up. But here's the kicker. Fahim was also at the scene when Michael Jackson died.
Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? The cleanup guy, Mr. Fahim Muhammad, was also on the scene when Michael Jackson died.
The fact that Fahim later worked with Diddy only adds more fuel to the fire. Some conspiracy theorists believe Diddy's is somehow involved, and that's not even the end of it. There are some wild allegations coming from Jaguar Wright, who's been making waves with her claims that Diddy had a hand in the death of his ex-wife, Kim Porter.
Kim died from pneumonia, but there's the first coroner's report that said that she died. It was ruled a homicide, and they found toxins in her body to prove that she had been poisoned. You know, they have poisons that create heart attack and pneumonia-like symptoms.
Now, Kim's death was officially ruled as the result of lobar pneumonia, a severe lung infection, and it was labeled as a natural cause. But according to Wright, there's a bigger, darker story underneath the surface. These are some serious allegations, adding to the mountain of legal trouble that Diddy's already drowning in. Right now, Diddy's still sitting behind bars fighting for bail. But if you ask a lot of folks, they'll tell you he's right where he belongs. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of